Hey everybody, welcome back to Pixel Junkies. We're playing the Division 2.
And
we're doing our hard playthrough of the game. Of the story missions.
I love humanity sometimes. Like I know like this is oh shit fuck sorry. Sorry, it was an ad that autoplayed.
Alright.
I was on
Watching
I was just on CNN. I have their news app and the video started playing.
Oh, you like people?
You know,
or
like
whatever?
well people, because like the world is being burnt. You know, Australia's being burnt to the ground, and like there's economic problems everywhere, and there's like a decrease in democracy, and the world's going to shit. And some guy's like, I don't know how to process that, so I'm gonna play Africa on a sweet potato.
Is that on CNN?
What?
Was that on CNN?
No, it's just a video came up in my feed, and I watched it earlier. It's like some guy plays Africa on a yam or something.
What the fuck? Let me like Wolf Blitzer come out and be like, so we're kind of
We're in World War III, but here's this yam.
we're sorry about all this depressing news about how shitty the world is. So here's a guy playing a game.
Can you imagine like images of nukes going off in the background? Do it was a super whistly and attitude. Actually, I will say for being played on a potato, it was pretty good.
People are weird.
Yeah.
They're weird ass shit.
What's the weirdest video that you've ever seen online that wasn't like snuff?
Oh god, I don't know. It fucking jogged my brain. I don't know. Do you know any?
It wasn't on the internet. It was actually happened to me in real life. But I remember some classmates come up to me in junior high and says, "Adam, you want to watch a video that we shot the weekend?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And I'm looking at the camera's just pointed across the room, and I'm like, "What's gonna happen?" It's like, we saw this cool bird actually flew into the house, and we got a picture of it. I'm like, "Okay." So I'm waiting.
I did the thing again. Hang on, we gotta restart.
Restart the audio?
No, we gotta restart the mission.
Oh.
Because I'm doing the invaded mission by accident.
And he's like, "Yeah, watching the bird's gonna fly in the frame any minute now." And I'm like, "Okay." And then you just see this, bit of flesh enter the frame, and I'm like, "What the fuck is that?" And he starts shitting.
What?
The guy took a video of himself taking a shit.
Why? That's fucking wild.
Yeah.
I think he said not snuff.
It's not snuff.
Yeah, sure it is.
I don't know. It just always stuck with me. Like, why are you showing? I don't even know you really well.
You watching it as snuff. He was taking a video, you watching it, and that was the snuff film. Yeah, were you handcuffed to like a table?
No, just in the like we were in the cafeteria or something.
I think you were.
I wasn't.
Blink twice if you were.
You're not even looking at me.
Adam blink twice.
You're like the worst hostage negotiator ever.
Not even looking.
Yeah.
He got his microphone. He's like leaning up against his car. He's not even looking at the building. He's looking away from it.
He's looking at his phone.
Yeah.
Hey, check out this cat video. Like,
what's your number? I'm gonna
fuck off your demands.
If I got rid of demand, give me your number. I'm gonna text it to you. It's funny.
Watch it. Are you watching it? And the guy calls back. It's 7 minutes long.
I'm not watching that.
It gets funny at the end.
Don't skip to it though. It's a build up. God damn. You know I don't have much data on my phone. Like
Get him more data. Call up AT&T or whatever.
Just don't demand the data because then I'm not allowed to give it to you. But give me your what did you get, your SIM card? You got a SIM card number? How do we get this guy more data? Call Verizon.
I was watching this guy. He was talking about some different RPG experiences that he had, and he said, "I was DMing a game of Shadowrun once." He was a YouTuber. His name is he's an old YouTuber. I don't think he does content anymore. His name is Spoony.
Oh yeah.
And he was talking about this Shadowrun campaign.
Did he ever become knifey at some point? And then he can complete the
Spoony's actually a verb.
The Australian.
It's actually a descriptor of somebody.
He's real spoony.
Yeah, spoony essentially means like Austin, like a not like an asshole, like somebody who's very like flamboyant and not very trustworthy.
I was gonna say so me, but then you said flamboyant, so not me.
Jesus, you're getting rinsed apart. So he was saying how he was running he was DMing a game of Shadowrun, and he said so it was the first mission of this party. and they were supposed to steal this, sneak into this museum and steal an amulet or whatever, and it was going to be like a plot hook for like, oh, the amulet was actually super powerful artifact needed by like some big bad, and they would have to steal it back from him eventually. And anyway, they go and sneak in, and they spent like 2 sessions planning out this heist. And the guy lowers himself down into the room. They said we have everything planned out. I was like, what if they have an audible alarm? It's like, well, we'll have to like wrap our feet so that we don't make any noise. We'll wrap ourselves in newspapers.
Is this D&D or just someone DMing?
It's Shadowrun that he's
DMing.
DMing.
Oh, okay.
And they're like, what if they have laser tripwires? Like, well, okay, so we're going to spray gas into the room so we can see the laser tripwires, and then you're really dexterous, so we'll lower you down. And he's like, well, and then they're going through every possible plan, and he describes it. He says, anyway, they begin lowering themselves down into the room, and he gets to the case. He cuts it open with a glass cutter and takes out the game, and he's like, yeah, perfect. And then he looks up, and there's a guard station looking at the thing, and there's a dude at the guard station who's like shrugging at him because the one thing that they didn't think to look for was an armed guard wandering around. And because he had at the beginning, he's like, okay, you're being lowered down, roll perception, and he failed. He crit failed, so he just didn't see him. So they end up getting sealed into the building, and they start taking hostages of all the security guards. And they were like, the hostage negotiator shows up, and he's like, okay, we need you guys to, like, what are your demands? And then one of the dudes turns around and says, what are our demands? And then the second dude shotguns one of the guys' heads off, and then throws his body out the door, and he's like, Jesus! And he's like, what are you? He's like, well, we want to make them know that we're serious. Like, no, you don't kill the hostages. He's like, that's what they do in the movie. That's what they do all the time. He's like, no, they don't! And so the police just storm the building because they start killing hostages.
This is probably one of the shortcomings of like RPG stuff. Like, because there's no visual.
Yeah.
You overlook things.
It's a great comedic moment though. They have all this shit planned out, and he lowers down, he looks up, and there's just a dude standing there looking at him. What was funny is the guy says, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to unhook myself from the tether, run over and try and beat him up before he calls the police. But he had already called the police. That was the first thing he did when he looked up and saw a dude being lowered down by a rope.
Like, put a radio to his face, like, fuck.
And so he said, the Spoonie said, yeah, if he just, like, raised himself back up, they probably could have got away before the police showed up.
They kept doing it anyway.
Yeah.
They kept whatever robbery or some nonsense.
Anyway, I think they had to restart the game, so they all died because the police shot them to death.
I almost died.
What's been now? This is gonna sound a bit conceited, because I'm the one running the games that you've been playing. But what's been like the funniest moment that you've ever had playing a D&D session? Because I'll tell you what mine is, just to see.
Well, I can think of it because. We were storming a tower, and we spent like literally 3 hours in real life planning how to get into the tower. And in the end, in about 5 minutes, we just decided to randomly run in, lob a fucking bean that turned into a campfire, and a frog that turned into a vampire lord into the camp, completely fucking wrecking the place to shit, and we just sort of like slipped in through the back door while everybody was getting fucking destroyed.
They came up with this elaborate plan, and it spent like literally 3 hours of game time planning, and at the very end they're like, okay, that's the plan. And then one of the players says, I also have these magic beans, and these magic beans, when you plant them in the ground, like random stuff will happen. And one of the things that happen is these pink toads appear, and when they touch somebody, they turn into a random monster from the monster manual. So they chucked a bean at the group, hoping something would happen, and then they chucked a toad at the group of guards, hoping something would happen. And the bean, they were like, maybe it'll turn into a big beanstalk, or like something like it'll cause a big explosion. It turned into a regular campfire. And then the frog hit, and I rolled for, and I couldn't even roll for it. I scrolled through the monster manual, the digital one that I have, and I just stopped at a random page. Or I stopped on because I have a thing. It was like sort by challenge rating, and I think it was either Vampire Lord and like you were so close to like something useless. I can't remember what it was, but it was something like a unicorn or a flump or something. And you got Vampire Lord. So like the next thing they know, the guards looking down, and there's this massive campfire. They're like, where the fuck did that come from? And then out of nowhere, a pink frog belts one of the dudes in the eye, and he's like, fuck, that hurt. And then 2 seconds later, Dracula comes out of nowhere and starts ripping the shit out of these poor guards and completely fucking shreds them. And the party's flying overhead, and they're like, is that gonna be alright? And they look down, and already there's like 8 vampire spawns, because when vampires kill you by draining your blood, you turn into a vampire spawn in my world.
So are those vampires just out in the wild now?
No, I said because the magic was created by, like, because the monster is only supposed to last for a minute. So because the Vampire Lord only lasted for a minute, the vampire spawn then just kind of crumbled to dust or whatever. Because I didn't want you have to worry about tracking down, like, a dozen vampire spawn out in the middle of the nowhere.
I think that'd be interesting.
I also just wanted to be done with that campaign and move on to the next one. I will say one of my favorite moments was a flub I said. I think it was the session right after. I was so fucking tired because I've been running a game for about 8 hours because it was the final boss, and it was everyone seemed to really enjoy it. It was the one where they were up. Basically, one of the main bad guys for the adventure was a former party member whose player, I'll say, left the group due to creative differences, and I'll leave it at that. And
Kathleen Kennedy, yeah.
What?
Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah. And so the character that he had played up till he got kicked out was an asshole and a villain essentially. And he also formed a rivalry with one of the players who stayed in the game. So he was the main bad guy of that adventure, and so there was this big epic duel between this evil former character now played by me and this player character, and the rest of you had to fight this large collection of demons and other cultists, and then an eldritch abomination summoned by this ancient outer god, and it was really epic. But it was so much work for me, and I've been doing it for about 8 hours, and I was so fucking just exhausted. That's his body?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. I was just so fucking tired that at one point I say, yeah, the dude picks up another, like, the main monster when they summon the Eldritch Abomination. He's like, yeah, he picks up a dude and begins juicing him into his own mouth.
Yeah.
He begins juicing him into his own mouth and drinking up the blood, and everyone's like, oh my god, that's so gross. And then without skipping a beat, I say, I wish I could juice a dude into my mouth. And at that point, we lost the narrative, and I had to take a break. I meant to say, because I was so thirsty and tired, I was like, I want something to drink, and that was my weapon. It sounded like I wanted to jerk him
even
off.
with context, it barely makes any sense. Like, what are you on about?
Yeah. Such a dumb fucking line. I just remember fucking, for about 5 minutes I was laughing because it was such a stupid thing to say.
It's good. D&D's fun.
Yeah.
Kind of a broken game in some ways, but it was fun.
Yeah. Some of my favorite memories about D&D are just, like, the random stuff that happens. Like being down in the sewers and fighting this, like, kind of low-level group of bad guys, and then all of a sudden one of your party turns into a T-Rex and just starts tearing the shit out of them.
Yeah.
And then, and then saying, like, can you imagine if you're, like, on the toilet and you hear this fucking T-Rex roar come up from the pipe? Like, what the fuck's going on down there?
Oh my god.
It's happening!
We just got these fucking replaced. Oh my god.
That's one of my favorite moments in The Simpsons. This is completely random, but remember when Bart gets the elephant? And it goes on a rampage, and it's heading towards the peanut factory, and the factory owner closes the door. Is like, you all said I was crazy for having us do those daily elephant attack drills, but look, I'm not crazy. It's actually happening. And then the elephant kicks the door down on top of him. Like, it's just one shot.
The one time I was right.
Such a great moment. I also love in that scene where people are calling in about the elephant, and Chief Wiggum was like, Wiggum here. Yeah, right, lady. An elephant just walked through your yard. Click. Ring. Wiggum. Oh, yeah, mister. An elephant just trampled your mailbox. Nice try. Click. Ring, ring. Wiggum. Oh, yeah, right, buddy. Bank robbery in progress. Officers down.
Yeah, the earlier seasons of that show were great.
I'm glad they're all up on Disney.
Is the entire show on Disney?
Yeah, all 30 seasons or whatever.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I mean, I actually can't really make that many seasons of a show without it losing a bit of its momentum.
Except for MASH or whatever.
Did they have 30 seasons?
No, they didn't. No, not even close. You know what I want to be almost more than any other kind of writer? I want to write for a soap opera. Because they literally just don't give a fuck. How great would that... Either a soap opera or professional wrestling. Because how great would that be to be a writer on a soap opera? You just, like, who gives a fuck? Like, nothing matters.
Yeah,
like,
but would you want to write that?
Yes, that'd be so much fun, because they wouldn't even care. Because I distinctly remember as a kid, I can't remember what show it was, but I remember watching it with my parent, or my mom, because my mom used to be in the soap operas. And at one point, this woman is having this inner monologue to herself, and then you kind of see, out of frame, but you see something move into the room, and she says, you're here after long last. I knew you'd come for me. And she turns around and is like, so, you here to make a deal? And the dude that she's talking to is the Grim Reaper. Like, what the fuck is going on?
What show is this?
I was Passions or something.
Oh. Yeah, I remember, like, I think my cousin used to watch some of that even when we were, like, fucking 5 years old, because there was nothing on TV during the day.
Also,
and it was just, like, we thought it was ridiculous back then when we were that young. It's
yeah.
Like, this is retarded.
Well, I had a professor who taught me political science, really great guy named Dr. Lurich, and he was he was one of the head dudes involved in Sudan, studying Sudanese politics when the country was attempting to organize a peace between South Sudan and Sudan, which is in the north. And so he was really high up in those level of negotiations, so he knows a lot about that country and about the conflict going on there. He told us some wild stories, including the fact that he says, yeah, one of the worst periods of fighting in the entire history of the Civil War happened because the Nigerian soaps went on hiatus. And he said, no joke, so many people, because that's like one of the few TV shows that came on was the Nigerian soap operas, and they were really popular in Sudan. And when they went on hiatus because there was some sort of writer's strike or something, I can't remember what it was, but they stopped making the show for a little bit. The fighting got worse because more people just joined up into the war.
Like, I got nothing to do. I guess I'll go shoot at some folk.
They also said that you could also tell when that the war was always going to get worse when because the price of sugar would go up, and they didn't have any sugar to put in their tea, so the fighting would get worse.
Such a small, like, it's shit like that you don't think about in warfare.
Yeah. Did you know that the entire Nazi army charging through France in 1940 during the Battle of France was high up on fucking methamphetamine?
I mean, I'm not surprised by that.
Because they had this, it was called a super drug, because they're like, yeah, it's a stimulant, and it'll keep our troops going. That's why they were able to charge through all of France in such short order. Because, like, at one point, like, the French general was like, don't these people have to take a break and stop? And anytime the Germans were like, we're getting tired, their officers would be like, just take more of this fucking drug. And they'd be like, man, I feel real great. Let's go. And then they just charge right onto the fucking Atlantic.
Yeah, I saw, like, a meme or something. It was like when your grandparents always said that they, you know, fucking walk to school uphill both ways in the snow in bare feet or whatever. I don't know if we've mentioned this before. But you're always like, yeah, whatever, grandma, whatever. And then he showed a picture of a bottle of cough syrup he found. And like, now I'm pretty sure I believe them. The cough syrup had like cocaine and like methamphetamines and like like Jesus Christ. But yeah, probably did that. Completely out of their mind.
Although I heard the best history story the other day. So, Liechtenstein went to war once, and it's the only war in human history where they actually came home with more soldiers than they deployed. They deployed 80 men, which was their entire military force.
I was going to say, Liechtenstein's not very big.
No, so they deployed all 80 of their soldiers to guard a pass because they didn't want Austria-Hungary to enter into their territory. I don't know how they were going to stop them, but
we're just kind of going to watch more than anything.
Yeah. So anyway, it didn't matter because Austria-Hungary, like Liechtenstein, was so tiny and so irrelevant to the greater war that was going on at that point. They just said, "Fuck it, we don't even care." So anyway, these soldiers were doing nothing, and apparently, an Italian tourist happened to be coming by. He hooked up in the fort with these Liechtenstein soldiers, ended up making great friends, all of them. So when they came home, they invited him home to live, and he ended up staying in Liechtenstein. They went with 81. They went with 80 men, and they came back with 81 because they made a friend.
We had a nice even round number, and you ruined it.
How great is that? The only war in human history where they end up coming back with more people because they made a friend.
That's not war at all. War's supposed to be hell, Adam. You're not supposed to make friends.
That's such a lovely story. I'm so glad that's true.
I'm surprised there's not a movie about it or something.
That's I think it's the... I forget what the name of the ship is. But there was this German ship that was... fuck.
The Hindenburg.
No, it wasn't the Hindenburg. Hang on, I gotta look it up. Vamp for a second.
Vamp. Vamping. Oh man, we're back at the White House area, I guess. And we got this beefy boy. I'm gonna break his pockets. Oh, and he's down. There we go. Perfect. Oh, I got this. Here, I'll show you this.
So it's called. So it was the SMS Cap Trafalgar. It was a German passage ocean liner that was converted into a cruiser during the First World War. It happened to look.
Blow him some loot boxes.
So what happened was it was from what I read. It was when war was declared in Europe in August 1949. The Cap Trafalgar eventually it was upgraded to be a military ship. Eventually, the German ship was trying to get close to other British ships to sink them. So it disguised itself as a British ship called the Carmanea. So the Cap Trafalgar was disguised as the Carmanea. The first ship that they came across was the actual Carmanea, and they're like, "Hey, wait a minute!" And they shot they shot the shit out of it and sunk it immediately.
I think I heard about that. I think you probably told me at some point. That's
Probably.
so stupid.
What the stupidest fucking thing you've ever heard in your life? It's like, we're gonna disguise ourselves as this ship, and it's the first fucking
Why wouldn't
thing.
they call it something else? Like,
What?
Would the British have known if there was like a differently named ship or something? Like if it was called like the Whiz Bangery or something, would have been like, hang on.
I mean, maybe, but they could have. I mean, presumably, like all the naval British officers would have known, like patrolling the guarding the convoys. Would have a registry of what ships were and were not registered to the British military. So
yeah, but I feel like if you get close enough to see the name on the back of it, you'd look at it and go, "That's not the same ship."
I don't know. I just funny story.
It's so stupid.
Another funny story is when the Austrian army attacked itself. Did you ever hear about that?
Oh yeah. I think you might have told that in the last series. I'm not sure.
No, well,
in some series maybe.
They were fighting the war with the Ottomans, and they were advancing in the night, and so they sent their cavalry out to scout, and then they set up camp, the main Austrian army, and then the Austrian cavalry came back, and they're like, "We found the Ottoman camp," and they charged. The Austrians were like, "Wait, what?" And all of a sudden, because they looked out and they saw this mass of horses coming down on them, they're like, "We're being attacked by the Ottomans," so they attacked themselves, retreated, and then found each other again, and then attacked again, and then retreated, and then in the process, the King of Austria got knocked off his horse and swept away in a river, and he wasn't found for 3 days.
Yeah. That sounds stupid.
Fucking stupid history.
Sounds like something Trump's army would do.
Yeah. One of the best memes I ever saw was who would win an entire battalion of Marines versus a single stick, and the first comment was like, "What kind of a stupid thing is this? How could a stick ever possibly hope to defeat 500 top U.S. Marines? All the Marines would have to do is break the stick, and there you go, or break the stick in half, and there you go." And then the second comment is like, "Well, then they got 2 sticks. The sticks win every time."
And we got, speaking of stupid things, we got a Slayer for Christmas as well.
What the fuck is that?
It's a Tommy gun.
I know it's a Tommy gun, but...
Okay, well, wait. It shoots snowballs.
Do they do damage?
It confuses enemies.
Oh. I
Which-
say,
which
is that a Tommy gun?
Probably would. It's got, let's take a look at it. There you go, there we go. It's got like candy canes and stuff all
cool.
over it.
Nothing says Christmas like a drum-fed Tommy gun.
Yeah, with some gold and reindeers.
Is that a
and
fucking
stuff.
Luger next to it?
Oh, what?
Oh no, I thought it was I thought it would look like Han Solo's pistol from a
This
distance.
one? Oh,
Yeah.
No, it's a FAMAS.
Is this what Han Solo's pistol is? It's a Luger, isn't it?
Probably. Oh,
Mon-
apparently they do damage, but
Or Mauser or what? No, it's a modified Mauser, isn't it?
some old German weapon. I mean, basically all Star Wars weapons are World War II guns.
Yeah. Bits taped onto it
Yeah.
and stuff.
Although some of them are pretty modified, but yeah, most of them I would say are old weapons, which is kind of neat. Take this.
Imagine you
flamey
come
boy.
up and it's like, flame! And you're like, snow!
That's a song of ice and fire. George R. R. Martin's
Still
lovely.
better than the actual ending we got.
Daenerys comes out with a flamethrower. John comes out with a fucking Tommy gun that shoots snowballs somehow. And then Drogon's like, what the fuck?
The fuck is going on? I better burn this. I better burn this fucking throne to the ground before more people die over it.
I like that Drogon is capable of like leveling the Red Keep in like 5 seconds. But he's blowing fire at that throne for like a minute,
Yeah.
and it's still there.
I like the idea that he can melt it quicker, but he wants John to get the pointed symbolism. Like, John, you understand what I'm doing? John,
I'm out of fire.
John, are you paying attention? John?
That goddamn throne was welded to that bitch.
Fuck. He tries to be all impressive, but it's not melting, and you can see the flames start to sputter and wheeze as he runs out of air. He's like,
It'd probably be more impressive in the actual books, because I'm pretty sure in the books the throne is much larger. Like you had to like climb up the throne to sit on
yeah,
it.
because apparently in fuck. In the show, it was only like several dozen swords, but in the books, it's like several hundred. It's like a
mountain of swords.
Yeah,
and there's a seat at the top.
I think that was actually they were all welded together by Balron, the Black Dread, or whatever the fuck his name was, the Drogon's ancestor.
Probably to do with the massive head.
Yeah. One thing I will give Game of Thrones.
Maybe that's why it doesn't fall apart fast, because it's already been welded together with dragon flames.
They did such a good job with those goddamn dragons.
Yeah.
Like just visually, they look amazing. Like Drogon is like the best looking dragon I've ever seen. He looks awesome.
Do you know of any other series? And we're going over time a bit, but do you know of any other series in live action media, or maybe just like visual medium?
Yeah.
Not comic, but motion, that illustrate the birth and growth of a dragon from like, beginning to adult?
Well, the Aragon movie.
The Aragon movie does that?
Yeah. And in the Aragon book it happens too, but it happens
But I
at a much
imagine
better
it's like it done in segments, right? Like you see it get born and then it skips 20 years.
In the movie, actually, that's not what happens. In the movie, she flies up into the air, gets hit by a bolt of lightning, and then is suddenly an adult.
Oh.
In the book, it's actually, it takes place over the course of several months, and kind of like with Drogon, like it's like dragons just age and grow really quickly.
Yeah, but even still with Game of Thrones, they're, that was a couple of years, I imagine, in lore.
Yeah.
It's still pretty quick, but they, you see them, like the first season, they're in the show, season 3, I'm pretty sure. They're, like, tiny.
Yeah. And then
like
by
hamsters.
the end, I mean, Drogon is, like, the most massive thing ever.
Yeah.
Fucking outrageously big. And even then, I think at the end of the show, he's not fully grown yet. I think he was saying, like, he might even get bigger than Balron.
Yeah, because I think, he was probably going off to, or people assumed at some point when Drogon left that he was going to, like, have kids.
Yeah.
And that in the final season, he would have came back with, like, a bunch of dragons, which would have been interesting, but...
My favorite part about Drogon is how his brother was taken out like a bitch by the fucking scorpions or whatever. And then in the next episode, everyone was, like, so worried about the scorpions, and he just, like, fucking casually just takes out the whole fucking lot of them.
Yeah. And I guess to fight the comments, which we will get none of, but I'll do it anyway. I guess the dragons in Game of Thrones were asexual, so he's not technically a he.
Are they technically asexual?
I think, yeah. I think, like... I think the idea was that like they have the necessary genitals regardless.
We use the complete DNA of a frog to fill in the holes and complete the code.
I read something about that. People were saying like, well, Drogon can't have kids. And it's like, well, he can have the necessary genitals if he wants. Apparently, he gets a penis on demand. You get a penis PVR. Anyway, I'm not sure the mechanics of it, but you know, I guess there was some of that dragon dick. I'm sure that all those women with the dragon dildos know the mechanics. I think I got fucked up. Merry Christmas.
Isn't the girl?
Yeah, well, maybe she got penis also, like Drogon.
Fair enough.
It's 2020, man. It's 2020 for fuck's sake. I can say that now.
Yep.
2020 is a cool year number.
Yep.
It's great.
It won't happen again for a millennium.
I guess not. Also, like that Cyberpunk is coming out this year, the game that like takes place in 2020.
Yeah.
In, like the
That's
tabletop.
I think that's why they pushed it back. It's like the game's done. It's like no, we got to push it back. The game's done.
Like yeah, but 2020 though. Like I
can't even equate in the words how excited I am for that game.
looking forward to it. It's gonna be good.
Hopefully. I really hope that there's a Ciri mission in there.
A what?
Ciri from The Witcher.
Oh, was she like a time traveler or some shit?
So, basically, when she ends up finding Geralt in The Witcher 3, she says, where did you go? And she says, I went between worlds to try and escape the Wild Hunt because they were after her for her power. And she says, so I went to many different worlds. And it's like, were they strange? It's like, well, most of them were like this one. Some of them were very strange. He was like, how strange? And she was like, you'll never believe me. And Geralt's like, try me. Or sorry, I should say, try me. Or however, I can't go that low.
That was pretty close.
And she says, okay, well, there was one city where everybody lived in a castle made of glass, where there were no horses, but everybody rode around in flying chariots, and they had bits of metal stuck to their heads and bodies. And there was lightning and everything, or something like that. And he was like,
yeah.
You're making that up. And I'm like, I don't know if that's just a cool little Easter egg towards like what their next project is going to be, but like, but it'd be cool if like there was a small reference to her in the game somewhere. That'd be cool.
I would say yeah. There'll probably be an Easter egg for that at somewhere in the game.
Yeah. Anyway, we really got to end.
Yeah. So thanks for watching, everybody. We'll join you next time.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, and play Cyberpunk, I guess, even though everybody's already gonna do that.